العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. We're going to continue on the roots of the Quranic revolution of 2021. We were just wanting to make sure that we went over a few housekeeping matters, and this is in reference to certain names. We wanted to make sure that they were out there. And also, we wanted to make a very important disclosure. Obviously, it's been 40 years, and there have been many, of the actual players involved who have gotten married, obviously, and were remarried, however the case may be. But to make a long story short, as far as the marriages of Malika Mauna Muhammad herself, obviously, we have elaborated my father, and also we had elaborated the stepfather whom the Quran was being read to at that young toddler age. And we have also related the fact that she did remarry at some point, and particularly prior to our embarkation, our way to Africa, or on our way to Africa, she did marry the fourth generation of Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba, the founder of Tuba. So we wanted to get those scenarios, but we will not, exactly specify any of our personal necessary lives, unfortunately, as to that aspect. So I wanted to get that disclosure and make sure that that disclosure was also very, very, very clear. And what I want to finally make sure that transpires, if we look at the earlier years, the early education, we are going to find preschool or kindergarten again, where Imam Khalid Yassin used to be back in those days, back in the late 70s, early 80s. It was the exact same place. Those who are not familiar, he's actually operating out of Australia, Europe, mainly these days. But yes, that Khalid Yassin. And Al Madrasa Al Islamia. And I wanted to say as well, because in the secret probes, it made it abundantly clear there that there was the element of the Shia movement in America that was also part of that kindergarten, or the Voices of Jannah, actually, the same era where you had the Voices of Jannah, which was something that Malika Mauna Muhammad I had gotten together, almost like a Quranic or Islamic choir group. And I remember only having, just a few performances where it was like, singing Islamic songs. And I believe one of them were at that institute. And there was just an ongoing communique between Malika Mauna Muhammad and some of the participants or members of that particular center. So there were definitely quite a few exchanges there in the correspondence. However, Al Madrasa Al Islamia had Brother Abdul Basir, Brother Tariq used to be there also, disciplinary. He used to drive the truck. Sister Saida and Sister Habiba, these were all staff members back in the 80s at Al Madrasa Al Islamia. So another name was Brother Salahuddin. Well, I think now Sister Saida, Sister Ismaila, I know that much. Brother Tariq and Brother Abdul Basir, who was tall, light skinned. He was the principal. He had Larry and Muhammad, who one of them happened to be in my class. So we were about the same age. That's how well I remember that for there. Now, Al Madrasa Al Islamiyah did have some non-Muslims attend. I remember having a classmate. I mean, we had uniforms, the green uniforms, and he was wearing a green uniform, but he wasn't. Him and his family were not Muslims, but they were able to attend. So I wanted to get that out. Now, Getting to back to where we are taken by AKF. AKF is the foreign, or I don't want to say foreign, but I do want to say the secretary of the Khalifa, uh, who lives closer to the capital. And similar to him having secretaries who live closer to him, he also has secretaries who live further from him. And what happened was that supposedly he had traveled, the secretary had traveled AKF, meaning Abdul Karim Fal. And I will use Abdul Karim Fal as much as possible because the Karim is worthy of mentioning. Inshallah, Jalla Jalaluhu give us of that. So Abdul Karim Fal, Papa Abdul Karim Fal came with his driver and he picked us up. And it was about a 2 hour drive. It happened maybe between 1 in the morning and 3 in the morning. It could have been later, earlier, give or take. And I remember just falling asleep and all of a sudden waking up and finding myself in the living room in front of two people, one being the first wife of Abdul Karim Fal and maybe one of her closest companions, and the three of us are just sitting and we're arguing or we're disputing as to where we are and why we're there. And from the legacy of the situation, legendary, or as legendary as it, he he happened to be traveling abroad. He was in France, and he got a call from the Khalifa, Sayyidina Abdul Ahad, asking him to come to Tuba immediately, no matter where he was. It did not matter how far away he was, or it did not matter what he was doing. Whatever was transpiring on his end, he wanted him to come and see him right away. And once he arrived, again at that time, which was as early as 12 or 1 in the morning, he was greeted and then he was told to take us to his house. I think that that was the order, and that's what he did. So he complied, and we wind up being there. Going back and forth. Are we still in Tuba? No, we are in Dakar. No, we are in some other country. We couldn't really tell. I could not tell. My older brothers, again, could not tell. We were all back and forth as to where we really were, instead of I don't know what else we could have done. To any regard, we were placed into a very well kept hut, and it was known as Casby. Still stands today. Interesting. Well, as far as I know, last time 2018 it was there, and we were placed there, and we were looked after. It was just the three of us, and mind you, that this compound actually had variations. So actually, we were very well taken care of. Mind you, that this compound had variations. Just to be clear, at the beginning, when you entered the compound, there would be several doors and they would be distances away. Um, these were all doors leading to one of the quarters of the father. Yeah, they all lead, with the exception of the one on the left, which actually leads to the masjid, and the one right next to that, which leads into a deeper part of the house, completely, separate from the front. The front again is where, the guests come through and they're received in the courtyard that is, or that all these doors share. Then you have a door where it goes to his special quarter, a door that goes to a quarter of his relaxation in between shifts, and so on. He's always had it like this ever since we were there, but it is, subhanAllah, they've managed to keep the compound in that. So when you enter, you would have all these doors. So you have one, two, three, four, maybe five doors, or four doors and four passageways, and they all, two of the passageways lead deeper into the house, but the doors really belong to the father. And so the Casby, which was the hut that is real nice, is one of his areas, one of his special areas of relaxation in between shifts, or for whatever reason he happens to be outside at night, enjoying the courtyard breeze, and he's maybe um, too close to one quarter versus his main quarter, so he would just go to that. In any regard, we were placed there. It had a big bed as well as some smaller attached seatings, which one could easily lay in. So we laid on those. And after a few weeks, I would say. I mean, we had our food brought to us. We would generally eat with him. This was the main thing. I mean, we really did build that system of, father, or he built it between father and child. Maybe we will find out later as to, how deep exactly that was. Another thing is that after a few weeks, he says that it's time for you all to go study. When we got the message, he didn't speak English. The father does not speak English, subhanAllah, but he would tell one of his older children, and at this time, again, as many as 35 siblings is, what we are going to be incorporated into. So he would tell his older siblings, or his older, I'm sorry, offsprings who had taken English in school, so they would relate to us that the father says that you all have to start your Quran classes now. So that's where things get a little bit confusing. So who is really into studying, learning Quran on a regular basis? Absolutely. At that time, I mean, yes, we had in our minds that we were going to master the Quran, but we had never sat in a Quran class ever before. I mean, give a brother orientations or something, but no. We were thrown into this Quranic class system, and we met all of the other younger siblings, or we met our peer siblings, if one may, and we had well, I had maybe one who was younger than me by a year or two, but everybody else was practically older than me. Everybody else was older than me. So we had the Musketeers, or whom later on became the African Musketeers. So we had, or there was Musa Fall, Durugay, there's Papa Job. We had Sheikhuna, so that's four. There was obviously Rashid Lubnani, and who else? I'm thinking there was Papanjai is there, so he's also younger, maybe a year or two younger. In any regard, meeting this group, so we have about, and the three of us, so, well, let's do, so meeting, you know, a group who could not communicate. We were just looking at one another, and they could not understand us, neither could we understand them. They knew we were quote unquote special guests, but they did not know why. And we knew that we were there to learn Quran, but we did not know how. And our teacher, which is the very first Quran teacher that I would ever learn how to read and how to write from, he does not speak any English either. So now he has a triple responsibility. He has to teach us Quran, but he has to teach us the local language. And in the meantime, obviously, he has to use his disciplinary tactics. And back in the 80s, today I'm positive about how things are today, but definitely back in the 80s, corporal punishment was in full motion. I mean, this man, uh, uh, and he's still, alhamdulillah, he's still with us, hafizahullah, sitting Samba. Sitting Samba had an animal's whip. It had a long, the leather part was weaved, just as you're doing a twist on hair. So it was twisted that way, and then the handle itself was wood. So it was in the whip. It was about a good 6-7 feet whoop. The handle was like a wooden stick, and the weaved whip. And he let us know up front that he got the whoop brand new. He really did. I mean, he got the whoop in front of our eyes. So that would be a very interesting few months, and it meant that we had to struggle to learn Wolof. I mean, I got tired of not being able to follow the order in Wolof because that's the only way he gave the order. The teacher has to give the order. The teacher gave the order in Wolof, which is the national language of Senegal. And I needed to know how to respond to that, or what the order meant and how to respond to it. And then I needed to be able to respond to him if he inquired of me. And I remember one of the very first things I had learned was Gisumoko. I don't see him, because he would constantly ask, Ana Samak, Ana Abdul Rashid, Ana Abdul Fattah. Where is Abdul Rashid? Where is Abdul Fattah? Where is Muhammad? You know, if one of us came, the next one had to answer it. Whoever came first had to answer where the other ones were. So I remember somehow, some way, I understood what Ana meant. And so I needed to learn how to respond to where is your brother? Where is the individual? And so I went and I learned it from, the elders who were familiar with speaking English and very well also knew Wolof. I told them what it is that I needed to say. And so I needed to say I did not see him. Said Gizumoko. And I wouldn't get whipped. But if naturally the way it would happen, he would be asking or saying something in Wolof. And before you knew it, you got whooped. You didn't even do anything. You just didn't understand. Um, so that was the way we picked up the Wolof. And then obviously, once the Wolof was picked up, we had already picked up reading, to some extent. Very, very basic though. It was a very small amount. But writing, he was big on making sure that we wrote. The other hierarchies, again, we had male and female ranging from at least 39 on down. I believe at this time the father had to be in his late 50s, he had to at least be in his 50s, I would say. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. But yeah, he definitely, by this time, there were children of his, biological children, who were in their mid 30s at that time, because here we are 30 years later, 40 years later, and they are well into their 70s. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. And we were there actually, in that sense, learning, this Quran as he taught it. There was no tajweed, there was just Arabic reading, writing. I am going to have to spend some more time on this particular phase at ISIS, because at some point the father says you all have to go to regular school. You have to go to French school. And where we wind up going is into a military camp. It's a camp de gendarmerie. This is where his children were going, but we didn't all go. My eldest brother did not go. He was not able to go to the regular French program at that time. Apparently, there was some issue with his age, and it appeared to be too much to be done. So he wanted him to go into the mechanical side of his business. But we're going to end it here as far as the roots of the Quranic revolution, the career of the Quranic activist. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.